All right, good morning, everyone. Good in the West, good afternoon to those in the East. We're going to give it just a minute here as attendees start to come into the Zoom room. So just hold tight here for a minute or two. All right, looks like we have our first wave of folks joining us. Certainly a big welcome to everybody who's coming in. This is the final session of Tiger Alumni Week. Hopefully those of you who are joining us today have had a chance to go to some of our other webinars throughout the week and different sessions or even reunions. Certainly had a lot of activity for our alumni this week. So why don't we, let's see, 101, why don't we go ahead and get started? So as I said, good afternoon to those in the East, good morning to those out West. My name is John Rodabaugh. I'm Executive Director of Alumni Relations for RIT, and I'd like to welcome all of the alumni, students, parents, faculty, staff, and guests joining us today. Before I turn this over to our moderator, I'd like to mention that today's event is presented to you by Magic Spell Studios. Founded in 2013, the RIT Center for Media Arts, Games, Interaction, and Creativity, also known by its acronym MAGIC, is two distinct entities housed within a new 52,000 square foot facility known as Magic Spell Studios. Across both sides of MAGIC, passionately pursue our missions of learning, research, entrepreneurism, commercial outreach, and project showcase. The MAGIC Center promotes the academic mission of the university, capitalizing on the energy, synergy, and convergence of multiple academic programs through project-based curriculum, faculty research, and scholarship. MAGIC is a digital sandbox for students and faculty pushing the boundaries of technology, art, and design. Magic Spell Studios exists to support the entrepreneurial ambitions of our students and faculty who are seeking to publish and distribute films, games, and interactive experiences, or start new digital media businesses. It also serves as a home to outside commercial activity in film production, digital design, and game development, welcoming companies to interact with RIT's best creative minds. Instead of explaining it to you in any more detail, we thought we'd roll a quick video that'll give you a better look at this exciting part of RIT. And just a note, there's no narrative here. It's all music in the background. So. All right, and now I'd like to turn it over to our moderator for today's session, David Long, Director and Associate Professor for the RIT Magic Center and Magic Spell Studios. David?
Thanks, John. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the finale of Tiger Alumni Week. This is the Alumni Association Distinguished Speaker, presented, as you heard, by Magic Spell Studios. And I, again, am David Long. I'm Director of the RIT Magic Center, and will be moderating our presentation this afternoon. Before I introduce our speaker, Elon Lee, there are a few housekeeping points I want to go over quickly. First of all, you've probably noticed as an attendee that you've joined in mute mode. However, you can submit questions to the Q&A box in the Zoom session at any time throughout this discussion. I'll be checking those out and perhaps bringing them to Elon's attention during his presentation, but we're also going to have a full Q&A session at the end, so stay tuned for that to get the answers to some things you'd ask. This webinar will be recorded and made available in the upcoming weeks, and a communication with how to access the recordings will be sent out and also posted on our website. If you have any technical questions, you can feel free to type those into the chat box, and we'll do our best to try to solve those technical issues if you have them. We would like to thank our premier sponsor, Sharp Notions, as well as our Tiger sponsor, Rochester Regional Health, for helping all of this week's programming be possible. And we would also like to thank our Access Services teams for helping us make this webinar accessible for all of our alumni. Real-time captioning is available within this webinar, and you've seen our interpreters will be spotlighted during the presentation as well. I want to let you know how grateful we are to all members of the RIT family who made a gift on Wednesday, which was Roar Day here. These gifts have a direct and immediate impact on our students, and if you haven't made your gift yet, there of course is still time. By visiting rit.edu/roar, your gift will be counted towards the Roar Day total. Now let's move on to our session. So we are extremely pleased to welcome Elon Lee as he discusses his experience of creating the most successful Kickstarter campaign of all time. Elon is a professional technologist and storyteller. His pioneering work in entertainment has spanned everything from multiple startups to raising millions of dollars to create the alternate reality game genre. Elon started his career at the Microsoft Game Studio, where he was a lead designer on the original Xbox. And then he next co-founded 42 Entertainment, the company behind I Love Bees and 9 Inch Nails Year Zero and The Dark Knight. Elon was also the founder and chief creative officer of Fourth Wall Studios and the chief design officer at Xbox Entertainment Studios. Elon most recently co-created Exploding Kittens, the most funded game on Kickstarter and the most backed crowdfunded project in history. Elon has spoken all over the world on the future of gaming and storytelling. He's won a Primetime Emmy for the series Dirty Work, the Game Innovator of the Year Award for Exploding Kittens, and an Indiecade Trailblazer Award for a distinguished career in interactive entertainment. Elon has been featured in Wired Magazine, New York Times, Entertainment Weekly, and the Wall Street Journal. He has also won awards for Best Web Game of the Year, Best Advertising Campaign of the Year, and Best Idea of the Year. Elon is a 1998 alumnus of RIT's computer science program, and I am excited for the first time publicly to announce that he has been selected as the 2020-2021 Distinguished Alumnus for the Golisano College of Computing and Information Sciences. So congratulations, Elon, on this exciting honor, and thank you very much for joining us. The audience is now all yours.
Thanks, David. Wow, that was a mouthful. It's really intimidating to hear all of that stuff all in one speech. So I'm trying not to blush. Instead, let's talk about the fact that you're all muted. It's the hardest thing in the world to talk to a crowd when I can't see them and I can't hear them. And if I say something funny and nobody laughs, then I don't know if it was funny and all the self-doubt starts creeping in. So I really, really encourage everyone to use that Q&A tool, send through questions. I don't know what you want me to talk about. So without that knowledge, I'm just going to talk about the stuff I want to talk about, which I hope is interesting, but we can really easily tailor this to what's most interesting to you. I love tangents. I love going down rabbit holes. So please send questions through and I'll do my best to answer them as we go. Okay, to start, I'm going to share my screen because there's a whole bunch of stuff I want to talk about. Give me 1 second to do that. We'll do this one, and done. Just want to make sure this goes to the right place. Okay. And here. Okay. I think I'm sharing the wrong one. Give me one more moment. There we go. David, can you jump in if I'm sharing the correct screen and it is full screen and it looks not horrible?
You are sharing the correct screen. You might need to move your Zoom. You have one of your Zoom windows perhaps over your screen. I've got a
Sure
big
do.
gray box in front of your slides.
How about that?
Now it looks great. Thank you.
Great. Let's begin. All right. So we just did the long, embarrassing introduction, so I don't need to talk about who I am. But what I do want to talk about today is the most incredible thing I've ever made. And this is a picture. All these people are looking at the most incredible thing I've ever made. But it's intentionally obscure. I don't exactly want to tell you what it is yet, because I realize in order to tell you about the most incredible thing I've ever made, I have to tell you about the concept behind it, why it does what it does, how it does what it does, and all the learning that went into making this astounding machine. And in order to tell you about those concepts, I have to tell you about Exploding Kittens. And in order to tell you about Exploding Kittens, I have to tell you about games in general. And in order to tell you about games in general, I have to tell you about this, a bean. What I actually need to tell you about is a game based on a bean called Bonanza, but that whole wind up really needed a bookend, and a bean seemed like a really good thing to put at the end instead of this game that maybe a lot of you have never heard of. Some of you might know this game, some of you might love it, some of you might hate it. I've never met anyone with really strong feelings about it, but this game was my absolute favorite growing up. This is the one that me and my siblings played every single day. And it made us laugh, and it made us fight and scream and throw things at each other. This was our go-to game. And as I grew up and started becoming interested in game design in general, this kind of fell off the radar for me. And about 10 years ago, I went to a party and some people had this game, and I asked if we could play, and we all sat around the table and we played it. And it was miserable. It was really boring. Nobody enjoyed it at all. And something incredible occurred to me at that moment. My entire life, I had been playing this game the wrong way. The rule set that me and my siblings were using was not actually how you play the game. I don't know where we got it from. I don't know how it creeped into our brains, but we were playing the game the wrong way. And you know what? Our version for us was so much better, because our version made us insane. I mean, we would laugh and scream and cry. And this version, the official version, if you read the rules, was a game trying to entertain you. And it would give you very strict rules, and it would tell you exactly what to do at each moment. And you follow the rules, and eventually you get to a winner, and then the game is over. But I started thinking about that. Like, what's the difference between my version and this version? And the difference is my version, because we were playing the wrong way, the game was not entertaining at all. And so we, me and my siblings, had to become the entertainment. And we wrote, without even knowing it, we wrote our own rule set to make us entertaining, to do all the heavy lifting that the game wasn't doing because we weren't playing it the right way. And what we inadvertently came up with was a version that we all fell in love with. And I started thinking about that a lot. When I left Microsoft, when I stopped working on the Xbox, I wanted to deliver that same thing. So I built a game. Started out really simply. I took a deck of cards and I just started scribbling on them. Each card did a different thing. It was kind of like a Russian roulette type of game. But it was very much encapsulating that concept of, what if the game was not designed to be entertaining? What if the game was just a tool set that allowed the players to be entertaining? And so we developed this game, me and a friend of mine, Shane Small, we developed this game, we got really excited about it, and we prepared it, and we decided to call it Bomb Squad, because the whole idea was there was one bad card in the deck, and you're trying really hard not to get that card. That card is going to kill you. All the other cards are great. It's kind of felt like defusing a bomb. The bomb is the scary thing. Avoid the bomb. We'll call it Bomb Squad. The next thing that happened was I showed the game to a friend of mine, Matt Inman, who writes and created The Oatmeal. And for those of you who don't know The Oatmeal, I am going to show you some of my favorite Oatmeal comics right now, because for those of you, well, I assume those of you who do know The Oatmeal, you wouldn't mind seeing some of the best ones. So The Oatmeal does stuff like this: how to draw hands in 3 easy steps. Step 1, of course, is just draw an oval. Step 2, draw a rabbit with a crazy huge boner. And then step 3, no one will notice you suck at drawing hands. This is the oatmeal. He's one of my favorite people in the world. I'm going to show you one more. Cat walks into a bar. I'll have a whiskey. There you have it. This is the tragedy of Zoom. I'm just going to imagine you're laughing because that's hilarious. And the idea that you're not laughing would make me very sad. So thank you for all the applause and roarous laughter, because totally deserved. Anyway, back to Bomb Squad. So we got this game. I show it to Matt, the oatmeal, and he asks if he can join the team. And if you're ever wondering if Matthew Inman of the Oatmeal asks if he can illustrate cards for your game, the correct answer is hell yes. So we brought him on board. He just had one requirement. He said, it's too obvious. It's like hitting the nail so perfectly on the head to call it Bomb Squad. Of course you're scared of bombs. Bombs are scary. What if instead you were afraid of something cute and cuddly and adorable? And let's rename the thing Exploding Kittens instead. So at that moment, Exploding Kittens was born. We took the game concept that we had come up with. We took Matt's brilliant illustrations, and we decided to put it up on Kickstarter. Now, this is what Kickstarter looked like when we got there. The most funded game of all time was Ouya. It was actually not a game, it was a game console. They raised $8.59 million for that project. And our goal was not to hit anything this high, not millions of dollars. That was not anywhere in our scope. Our idea was, let's raise $10,000. $10,000 is what we need to actually make this game, to produce like 500 copies of it. And so let's just go with that. So we made a pretty funny video. We built a really fun page. We put it up on Kickstarter. We all held our breaths and we hit go. And it went really well. We got that $10,000 in 20 minutes. And in less than an hour, we had 10 times that amount. And it continued to go really, really well. We actually raised $1 million in less than 7 hours. And by the end of the first day, we had 2 million, and then that went on to 3 million. And it just gets kind of embarrassing after there. But if we look at it, the number that we raised every day was phenomenal and staggering. But for those astute viewers, you will notice a discernible trend in this graph and where it's going. By the end of the first week, our entire marketing campaign was based off the oatmeal. And he posted to social media, hey, I have a new card game. And everyone who loves the oatmeal came through and bought the game, pre-ordered the game, as is the idea behind Kickstarter. But once his fans are depleted, we've got nothing left. And we all kind of scratched our heads for a moment there and thought, well, we did great. Should we just ride off into the sunset? Like we've raised so much money, so much more than we ever thought we could. We have no idea how we're going to produce this many games. Or should we try something else now? Week 1 is over. We got 3 weeks left of our 30-day campaign. What else can we do? I'm a huge data nerd, so I decided to take a look at something. I looked at Ouya and cracked open their site to look at the actual statistics going on. And here's the amount of money that Ouya raised on a day-by-day basis. As you can see, they had a very strong start, very similar to us, and then they kind of cratered, same as us. And they had a few pushes here and there in the middle, and then a huge ending, which is how they broke all those Kickstarter records. This is great. I don't know what to do with this. It was interesting to look at. And then I pulled in another set of data. On Kickstarter, you can write messages. There's a little community board for every single campaign. And so I said, well, let me look at the number of messages posted per day for Ouya. And here they are. And as you can see, there's a really, really easy to see correlation between number of messages posted per day and the number of money, the amount of money raised on that day. To me, this is gold. This is so interesting because it's starting to reinforce that concept that I started thinking about with Bonanza, which is people who are backing this campaign, they don't know what the product is. They haven't gotten it yet. These are all pre-orders. This is a 30-day experience they're having where they're just trying to figure out, should I tell my friends about this? Should I put more money into this? What is this thing? And I started to realize that because we can clearly say that the messages that they received are correlating to the amount of money that they're earning, that reinforces that whole concept. They have not built an entertaining product, or maybe they have, nobody knows, no one's received it. What they've done is they've built an entertaining web page. And that entertaining web page is not actually entertaining. It's just a vanilla Kickstarter page, but they have found little tools to make the audience themselves the entertainment value. And they've done it just a little, but it broke all the records. Well, what if we tried that? We're 1 week in. What if we decided to do the same thing? What if we make a tool set that makes the people entertaining instead of the product entertaining? So the way that Kickstarter campaigns work is you create these things called stretch goals. And the way a stretch goal works is you say, look, if we raise X amount of money, we'll give you more cards. We'll make the game bigger. If we raise even more money than that, we'll give you a fancy carrying case, whatever it is. We actually did the same things. We said, look, our first stretch goal is we will give you 2 games for the price of 1. And our second stretch goal is we'll give you a really fancy box so you can carry the game around. But instead of associating these things with money, like every other campaign in history had done, we decided to introduce these new things called achievements. And we said, look, we're not going to talk about money anymore. We're not interested in money. Money's not entertaining. You are entertaining. Unlock 20 achievements, you'll get the first stretch goal. Unlock 30 and you'll get the second. What are achievements? They're insane. Achievements are these crazy things we wrote. We said, take funny pictures, film funny videos, put yourself in interesting situations. And if you send us those pictures, we will shine the spotlight right back on you. And we are going to broadcast the content that you create back out to the audience. In other words, we're going to make you the entertainment. And so we tried it. Kickstarter makes you label all your updates. This one happened to be update number 9. That was a big deal because we said, look, any picture you submit for our crazy party that we're about to throw, just put the word update 9 in there somewhere. So for example, one of the characters in our game is named Beard Cat. Half beard, half cat. We thought he was pretty adorable. We posted the challenge to our audience and said, show us 25 pictures of a real beard cat. And this happened. This is just a sampling of some of my favorite. Hundreds of these things showed up. But look how beautiful this is, right? Like, I can't create this content. I can't come anywhere near this degree of awesome. But what I can do is invite people to play. I can be the tool set to make them entertaining. And when they submit these pictures, I'm going to quickly turn them right back around and show the entire community. So we did another one, 25 pictures of a real taco cat. Half taco, half cat. Taco Cat is my favorite character in the game because he's a palindrome, right? Taco Cat spelled backwards, still Taco Cat. Anyway, here's a bunch of pictures of real taco cats that got sent to us. The one in the bottom left corner is one of my favorite pictures of all time. That is an animal shelter where this lovely woman legally changed the name of this cat to Taco Cat. And there's the paperwork to prove it. So truly, there is a picture of a real Taco Cat right there. We then had other silly challenges. How about 10 people wearing cat ears? Yeah, we got hundreds, maybe thousands of pictures like that. We said, okay, let's up the ante. Instead of 10, what about 50? Where do you even buy 50 cat ears? We got dozens of these things. Look at how many people it takes to pull together and coordinate a picture with 50 people wearing cat ears. We decided to up the ante one more time. What about 100? We didn't think this one would ever get hit, but sure enough, one day this picture showed up. This is 234 people wearing cat ears posing for a picture for a Kickstarter campaign, a game that they don't know very much about at all, and certainly not one that they've ever touched or felt. But suddenly they get the opportunity to become the entertainment. And of course, we couldn't resist. We said, post a picture of 10 Batmans in one hot tub, and even that one showed up. One submission, but one was all it took. All right, other things started happening at this point. Crazy things started happening at this point. We got these mailed to us from a master Lego builder who works for Lego. He decided to build Lego versions of some of our characters. Of course, we turn right back around and just post that to the world. People started creating plush toys for some of our characters. This is Pigacorn. Balloon art started showing up, tattoos, literally real tattoos. We had to verify that these were not temporary. No, these are real tattoos from characters in our game. And it started to go insane at that point. This is a message that you would get if you tried to email the Gmail account associated with our Kickstarter campaign. The important bit is here, the user you're trying to contact is receiving mail at a rate that prevents additional messages from being delivered. It turns out, in case anyone wanted to know, that magic number is 1,000 per minute. If you receive 1,000 emails per minute on Gmail, they shut down your account and they spit up this error message. It was nuts. None of us had ever seen anything like this before. Another favorite example is we mailed out a pre-release version of the game to some of our fans and said, hey, try this out. Let us know what you think. And in all games, you have to pick someone to go first, right? The shortest, the tallest, whatever it is. We had that same thing. Pick a player to go first, some sample criteria: most impressive beard, most intimidating odor, or shortest spleen. I thought that was funny. I wanted to throw that in. Of course, no one's going to take that thing seriously. And then someone tweeted this back at us. My friend Amy is an ultrasound tech who has the shortest spleen. And holy crap, they actually did it. They went to the hospital, they got ultrasounds, and if you ever play Exploding Kittens against Amy, she goes first because she has the shortest spleen. All right, so how did they do? We posted all these insane images, all these insane requests for images, and they actually did all of them. There were actually 2 that they missed, but just barely. And we unlocked all those stretch goals for them. And again, the whole idea is we're not entertaining, you're entertaining. We're just the tool set to make you entertaining. So what does that mean for us? Well, here we can go back and look at Ouya, the money raised compared to the messages posted. All right, let's look at us. Exploding Kittens posted messages. Here's where update 9 hit. Now, I can't hear you, but in my brain, you are all wildly applauding because this graph deserves applause, damn it. This was so much work and such a crazy concept, and we had no idea what to expect. But look at those messages. People, this is to scale, right? Ouya and Exploding Kittens is on the same scale here. We invited people to become the entertainment and they stepped up. And it was astounding and it was beautiful. And those pictures you saw are just the tip of the iceberg of what we got sent back to us and then what we in turn got to share out with the crowd. And so what does that mean? All right, so we got a bunch of messages. Did that actually work? Well, as I said, there's Ouya now in 2nd place compared to Exploding Kittens, the new most funded game in Kickstarter history. And still to this day, while there are some that have actually passed this number, Exploding Kittens still has the #1, the most backers of any campaign in crowdfunding history across any category. And that number I am so much more proud of than dollars raised. Dollars raised is staggering, but the number of backers, 220,000 people jumped in to help with this thing. And no one else has even come close to that number, I would argue, because no one has quite embraced that concept the same way that we did. Don't build entertainment, build a tool set that makes the people entertaining. Okay, so I told you that whole story because I really want to tell you this story. This story is the most incredible thing I've ever built. And this story starts at conventions. This is a little bit bittersweet for me to talk about. Obviously, we don't have conventions today. We're all stuck at our homes, but I still want to talk about this a bit because I know they're going to come back. And I know that when they do, I hope I'm speaking to an audience that is going to build the things to make them even better. Conventions, though, are very difficult. They're noisy and they're crowded. And when I say noisy and crowded, like seriously, just throngs of people everywhere. And to get your voice heard, to get your message across is nearly impossible. It's just a storm and it sucks. And everybody's best attempt, unless you have hundreds of millions of dollars to spend on a booth, everyone's best attempt is this. This is what we did our first few years. We built a booth, we put up a table, we said, here's our game, give us 20 bucks, here's a game, see you later. And people would do that, but they would leave with no memory of the interaction that they just had, no memory of the company that they just helped with. And it was really sad. And I knew we could do better. And I knew that the secret of doing better was to start thinking through, how do we stop building content? How do we stop building a booth and start building a tool set instead to make the people entertaining? And so when I look at a booth like this, walk up to it, hand money, get game, walk away, that's really just a vending machine. And I thought, well, let's start there. Let's start with the basics. Let's build a vending machine, but our vending machine has to be better. How do we do it better? Well, it's got to do a few really basic things. A vending machine has to have pretty good inventory management, right? Put in money, get thing. We have to have that covered. Payment processing, what if you put in $1? What if you put in a credit card? Whatever, coins, has to be able to handle all of that stuff perfectly. Has to be interactive, right? Now we're starting to get into that tool set. How do we make sure that when you play with the machine, it can play back? What if you push an unexpected button? What if you make a funny face at it? How do we make, what if you touch something on the touch screen that wasn't expected? How do we make this interactive? Proximity detection. Obviously, we need this thing to be able to interact with you only when you walk up to it and not just demonstrating its abilities for no one there. Identification. People are dressed in costumes. Cosplay is huge at these conventions. And so if we can figure out how to program the machine in such a way that it identifies you, knows what you're dressed up as, maybe the interaction can be that much better because we know a little bit about what you're into and the folklore behind it. Adaptive reasoning. What if you do something that just generates an error? And we need to be able to learn from that error, change the way the machine works so that it won't ever hit that error again. Now it knows what to do when you push 3 buttons at the same time. Now it knows what to do when you're just completely unexpected. And finally, machine learning. It has to get better as it goes. There's no way we can think up all the scenarios that can possibly hit this thing. So it has to learn from its mistakes, from the people, from the experience it has in order to get better and better. And we're a small company still, right? We just shipped out a whole bunch of games. We have to figure out where our next source of revenue is coming from. So we assigned a budget of $250 to this thing, hoping we can make the best vending machine in the history of vending machines. Yeah, so the next thing we did was we actually built it. We started out in my garage. I had a bunch of friends help me with this, literally NASA engineers, mechanical engineers, research scientists. Everyone chipped in a little bit because this task is impossible. And this is what version 1 looked like. We literally built it out of a refrigerator box. We put a bunch of big buttons on the thing. But then to take it to an actual convention, because we want it to look beautiful, we decided to cover the whole thing in fur and make it look like a giant cat. Now, this vending machine does all the things that I needed the vending machine to do, right? It's got buttons so you can push which game you want. It's got a slot where you can put any kind of money into it and it'll receive it. And it's got this beautiful interactive screen with a bunch of abilities to view the person who walks up to it. Now, the screen is something I'm really, really proud of because we had this kind of clunky vibe to the machine. The term we kept using was Calvin and Hobbes. How do we make it look like something Calvin and Hobbes would build? So instead of a regular digital screen, these signs would pop up and they looked handwritten. That way we could talk to people in this really charming way. And the sign system was really complicated, but worked so well. It could display anything. It could display numbers. So we could tell you the price of an object. It could say, have a nice day. It was a very, very unique special system. All right, so did it work? Yeah, it really started to work beautifully. People kind of fell in love with this thing. They walked up to it. It was a source of kind of joy and wonder, and crowds started to form around this thing to see what it was and how does it work and can I use it? But the real magic, when I talk about this should not be entertaining, when I talk about this should be a tool to make people entertaining, the real magic was this button. This button says random item, $1. Really basic concept. You push this button, you put in $1, and a random object is going to come out of the machine. And when I say random, I really mean random. The things that would come out of here were produce, watermelons, pineapples, plush toys, paratroopers, balloon animals. The machine was capable of delivering more than 2,000 unique items so that every time someone pushed the button, it would do something a little bit differently. And people started to fall in love with this thing. And whenever they would receive a random item, they would hold it up over their head and a crowd of 200 people would start cheering for them and start talking with them. And people started to realize that this thing is a game, but it's a game specifically designed to make the audience entertaining. Because the thing that they're going to get is not totally random. It's actually based on who they are and what they said and how they walked and all kinds of things that the machine was capable of monitoring to deliver something perfect for them. The other rule we had about all objects was nothing can ever come out of the machine that is small enough to fit in your pocket, because this picture is what we wanted. We wanted people to have to walk around a convention with a mop sticking out of their backpack, because everyone's going to stop you and say, what the hell is that? Where did you get it? Why do you have it? And suddenly, again, the spotlight's on you. You're the star. You're going to tell them a story about what just happened to you, what you just went through, and where they can have that same experience. And that really started to work beautifully. Now, I've just spun quite a tale here. How the hell is any of this possible, especially on our insane budget? How can a machine possibly be capable of producing that? Well, the answer is we totally cheated. This is not a high-tech vending machine. This is a vending machine costume. It is filled with 8 employees all the time working insane hours and at an insane speed to deliver all of those objects. Here's what it looks like backstage. This is me standing behind it. You can see it's just a shell. There's no technology at all involved. This is a human-powered vending machine. Here's what it looks like backstage with people. A quick run through the people. Person number 1 is in charge of interacting with the customer, taking their money, pushing things back at them. Person number 2 is in charge of all those signs. Person number 3 is the cashier, working the actual cash. Person number 4 is the runner. This person runs back and forth between front of house and back of house, where the objects are created by person 5 and 6. There's actually 2 more people also creating objects. But this crew is what is required in order to pull this thing off. That complicated sign system, that Calvin and Hobbes sign system that can produce absolutely any message on a sign and it looks handwritten, is because they're actually handwritten signs that we tape to popsicle sticks, we scribble on them, and then we hold them up to the screen. It was as low tech as a thing could possibly be, and it was glorious. This is what it looks like backstage with all of the inventory starting to come in. This is what it looks like with people and inventory as we're just working like crazy to craft these objects. On the very first day that we rolled this thing out, we realized that we wanted a bunch of fresh produce backstage. And fresh produce, turns out you can't just go buy a bunch of fresh produce and you can't have it delivered to a convention center. So what you have to do is you have to be a registered grocer. So we showed this at 6 different conventions and in 6 different states, and Exploding Kittens is now a registered grocer in 6 different states, just so we could have objects, fresh produce delivered backstage to hand out to people for $1. The very first day that we ran this thing, we sold out immediately. We had nothing left backstage. So we quickly loaded up 4 of us into a car, drove out to a dollar store and bought them out. Everything, like every object bigger than you could fit in your pocket, we bought at that dollar store, all of them. It was insane. The poor people waiting in line behind us had to sit through this hour-long insanity as we checked out all the objects in the store. Because we just vastly underestimated this thing that we had built and the power of it, specifically because all it does is it makes people who walk up to it entertaining, and who doesn't want that experience? This is us backstage putting googly eyes on lemons so we could hand those out. Toilet plungers had to be assembled. We had bedazzling a banana. We started to look up dumb jokes online. This is a pool noodle, right? So we wrote on it, what do you call a fake noodle? I'm going to pause for all of you to guess what the answer might be. An impasta. Ha! So a lot of ridiculous, silly, stupid things like that. I say the machine could hand out 2,000 individual objects. That's because we were back there making 2,000 individual objects, writing on things, gluing, paper mache, folding, you name it, we would deliver this stuff. And it did exactly what it was supposed to do. Crowds started forming. In fact, there was on average a 2-hour line to walk up to this machine. And that line actually became a huge problem, right? It would block our booth. It would block all the surrounding booths. It would go out into the hallways, block the hallways. It would go out of the convention center and then spill out onto the street. The fire marshal hated us, hated us. All the booths around us hated us because we just didn't accurately predict what this thing was or how powerful it was. There was always a huge crowd of people in front of the machine just watching. You could watch this thing for hours and never see the same object come out of it twice. And the people in front of it receiving those objects were the stars. And they were so much fun to watch because the joke that we were telling with them, not as the butt of the joke, but as the participant along with us, that was the entertainment value. And so people lined up. They crowded around our booth so much that we actually couldn't get backstage. If somebody wanted to, like, someone backstage needed to go to the bathroom, they couldn't get back to the booth because the crowd was so densely packed in there. So my friend Jordan Gold, who is a professional magician who was working backstage with us, he came up with the most brilliant solution ever. He took some tape and he wrote the word lava on the floor. And this was 100% effective. Not a single person stepped on that line, ever. So we always had an easy way in and out of the booth because of, 3 feet worth of white duct tape. All right. I say that we could interact with people, and I say that the tool set was to make people entertaining. And let me talk a little bit about how the rubber actually hits the road there. We took advantage of the fact that we had a 2-hour line. We would send out runners to just watch the line, go out and look for people in particularly good cosplay. So when we'd see someone dressed as, for example, the Mother of Dragons from Game of Thrones, we know that we've got somewhere between 20 and 40 minutes to create the perfect object for her. So we take a watermelon and we bedazzle it with sparkly little diamonds. And so that when she walks up to the booth and she puts in $1 and she pushes the random object button, in a second, out comes a dragon egg, perfectly for her. And what's important about this picture, look at the guy in the blue shirt in the background. His brain is falling out of his ears right now. He has just witnessed a miracle. That is not possible, what just happened. And the whole trick here is building that interaction between us and the players and the audience, because they are what we rely on. We need them to be the entertainment. We took selfies with stormtroopers. We handed out watermelons to little girls. This is one of my favorite pictures. So the kid on the left, he walked up to the machine. He pushed the random object button 6 times and put in $6. And so all we did was we just unrolled 6 rolls of toilet paper at him, right through the machine, just unrolled them. Look at the look on his face. This is like the best day of his life because he got 6 rolls of toilet paper. There's a whole new kind of magic happening here that I've just never seen before. The girl on the right, that's her unicorn horn, that golden horn. So she walked up to the machine and we just started putting additional unicorn horns on her head. And look at her, she's delighted. This little kid came up to us wearing a Batman costume. So of course we had to scribble on a banana, which absolutely made his day. I think, 3 dozen people must have taken his picture that day. Look at the look on this kid's face. Look, he's so excited. He just put in his $1. What's about to happen? More selfies with a family of just adorable little girls. This kid we mummified, literally. And his mom started helping. His mom started spinning him around so we could unroll this roll of toilet paper around his poor body. Oh, look at the look on her face. This is like one of the happiest pictures I've ever seen. Suddenly this becomes a thing. Walking around a convention center, I found a toddler with one of my games holding a toilet plunger, because that's what we have created. This girl walked up to us and instead of putting $1 in the machine, she wrote a love note. Now, I saw her writing the love note in line. And so I had a little bit of time and we sent someone out to buy 12 roses. And so when she put in the love note, one by one, we just started handing her long stem red roses. It was such a beautiful moment. Someone wrote us this note saying we're doing a better job than Santa Claus. It was all over social media. This thing was trending on Twitter and Facebook and all the rest of it, just because, what's important is look at the pictures. The machine is not part of these pictures. If it's anywhere, it's blurry in the background. The pictures are the people. And to me, more than anything, that says we did exactly what we set out to do. People wanted to talk about the spotlight on them and the way that they got to become the entertainment, become famous from this thing. So this is a video. I'm sure the frame rate is horrible through Zoom, but hopefully I'll catch at least a few, there's no sound. Hopefully I'll catch at least a few moments of people just having the most delightful time. When I talk about this thing, I said, like, you know, we had to build the smartest vending machine ever. We had to build the most intelligent vending machine ever. We had to build the most sophisticated vending machine ever. But what we actually built was none of that. We just built the best machine ever. And I say that this is the best thing I've ever built. I truly mean that. This thing was run on human software for 8 hours a day, and it just doled out joy. That was what it was built for. That is what it delivered. And I am probably more proud of this than any object I've ever pushed out into the world. So I hope that when we come back from quarantine, I hope that when you're designing your games, your projects, I hope you can take a little bit of this with you and start building products that are not entertaining, but that are tool sets to make your audience the entertainment. And now, because nobody interrupted me even once, we're going to open it up to Q&A.
Thanks, Elon. That's awesome. We are starting to see some questions roll in. We had one or two during the presentation, and we can start with those. So first, a good homage back to your time at RIT. Are there any unique experiences you had at RIT that you feel contributed to developing your acumen for innovation and entrepreneurship or creativity? Those experiences that weren't academically based.
Yeah. So RIT helped me in a very unique way. Honestly, the weather. RIT is a great school. We can talk about the academic accolades forever, but for such a good chunk of the year, you're stuck inside. And for me, what that meant was I had a really good group of friends, but we had to find something not to go crazy. And we started, that was really the seeds of, for me, what became a career in storytelling, is to figure out, like, okay, I've got a captive audience, but what should we be talking about? What should we be doing? What's fun? What's not fun? And by necessity of being in this environment where we had the best, smartest people I've ever been surrounded with, but not that much to do, we had to figure out how to solve exactly that problem. Now I know, I don't mean to be disparaging. I know a lot of that has changed and things have gotten better, but I look at that as a huge benefit for me. It was so wonderful to just be forced to spend time face to face. We all very quickly realized staring at a screen is not what we want to be doing. So let's entertain each other. Let's be storytellers. Let's be inventors to solve that problem.
That's great. Your secret's safe. I don't think anybody from Campus Life is on the call. So, all right. Question here: will you ever bring this machine to RIT? That's one I was going to ask. So I had to throw.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I would love to. This year, what we were supposed to do is this machine got me kicked out of every convention I brought it to because of those lines. The fire marshal eventually just shuts us down because it's not fair to the other people, right? We're blocking all the booths, we're using all the space, and it sucks. So we get kicked out, and that's fine. We know to expect it. But instead of trying to solve the problem, instead of trying to have good line management, instead of trying to make the booth less interesting than it is, this year, we rented out the Portland Convention Center and we were going to throw our own damn conference, and it was called Burning Cat. And we had the machine set up. We had 24, 25 other booths ready to go. We built a 60-foot tall animatronic cat that breathes fire and shoots lasers out of its eyes. All of this is now sitting in storage. Waiting for its opportunity to get out there. So yes, I can bring this booth to RIT. I'm hoping that by the time we get to the light at the end of this tunnel, there's a bunch of other fun toys I can bring as well.
Awesome. Here's a good timely question. So you've obviously got a ton of creativity and are very invested in games and play and fun. So with the pandemic, what is your recommendation for the best games activities for enjoying friends virtually?
Yeah. So I have two answers to that. Best games for quarantine. Um, there's two kinds of games you can play. You can play the ones with the people in the room with you, which for a lot of us is a very limited set of people. And there's the games you can play on Zoom. So let me start with the games you can play with the people in front of you. I actually just finished designing and launching a game specifically designed for that. And so you'll have to indulge me and let me talk about it for 1 second. It is this guy right here. It's called A Game of Cat and Mouse, and I'm so proud of this. This is 2-player competitive slingshot-based pinball. And it's specifically because for the last few months I've been so pent up, and in my house is my wife and my daughter, and we play a ton of games, but it's just us. And so I wanted to work with the Exploding Kittens team to build something specifically designed for small house, limited set of people, super easy to learn and fast setup and cleanup. So that's recommendation number one. But let me talk about Zoom-based games, because a lot of us want to play games with people that are not in the same room as us, right? Across the country, across the world. And I've been noticing, I stare at the Amazon best-selling charts all day because I'm really curious to know which games are trending and which ones are on their way out. And the two that I've noticed that have really started to creep up the ranks are Battleship and Guess Who. These are really old games, but something's going on here, right? Why those two? And the reason for those two is those are two games where when two players play against each other, there is no connectivity between one side of the board and the other side of the board, right? My side of Battleship is not connected to your side of Battleship except through our voices. And that's a very unique kind of game that is very playable over Zoom or any video chat system. And there's never really been that necessity before. Same thing with Guess Who, for those familiar with that game. So go find those games. Those are interesting. I just released my own version called Quarantined Kittens at quarantinekittens.com. It's a free game if you want to try it out. Just me throwing my hat in the ring there. Those kinds of games, there's not a ton of them, but they are so fun and suddenly required. So yeah, go check those out.
That's cool. Kind of related to this, just based on the games you've talked about and the games you seem to like to make, it seems like there's a lot of focus in the game design world on technology, cool graphics, high horsepower in the hardware, and there's not necessarily enough focus on fun, creativity, story, and characters. Have you observed that? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's honestly, that's one of the reasons I switched to tabletop games. I worked at Microsoft for a long time in the Xbox group, and it became it got to the point where to create any game, you needed teams of hundreds of people. You needed the absolute state-of-the-art technology to produce them, because as the competition rises, they're setting the bar for what you have to pass. Now, of course, there are a few indie games that have learned how to sidestep that very elegantly. But for the giant AAA blockbuster games, you're right. It became this war of escalation. And so my solution to that was to step out of the race entirely and go this other direction, is to say, like, I don't want my interaction with my friends to be screen based. I don't want to sit in a room and stare at a piece of glass while my best friend is sitting there also staring at a piece of glass. So the goal of Exploding Kittens, the whole reason we started the initial Kickstarter campaign as an experiment, was to say, what if we walk all the way back to game night? What if we celebrate that moment once a week when we invite all your friends over, get some pizza and beers, and say, let's put down our phones. Let's abandon the technology and say, we're going to celebrate each other around this table right now, and we've got a stack of games that allows us to do that.
Yeah, in my own life, I'm excited. There's been so many of those moments in the last year or two where you you find that we don't all have to be focused on the technology entertainment experience. There's just that good old fashioned fun to be had with one another in some zany
Yeah.
game that's on the table in front of us. So maybe that's a good segue into another question. We have a couple of game design students who've asked similar things here. What is the mindset, or how do you engage the creative to think about a game where the audience is the entertainment? You know, you spoke so much about that, about your vending machine. So how do you focus on that? How do you find the fun there where the audience is the feature?
So I think there's two important elements to finding that fun, finding the version of a game that makes the audience fun. The two elements to me are a really repeatable, engaging core gameplay loop. If you look at all of your favorite games, you should be able to describe the core gameplay loop in any of those games in a single sentence. For my own game, Exploding Kittens, it's Russian roulette, right? Draw a card. Am I going to die? Am I going to die? No, I'm okay. Am I going to die? I'm okay, right? And you can repeat that infinitely. The tension keeps ratcheting up. There's your core gameplay loop. You talk about a game like Settlers of Catan. I would argue Settlers of Catan, most people describe it as a resource management game. Nonsense. Settlers of Catan is a player-based trading game, because I've got something you want, you've got something I want. We're going to have to talk to each other so that we can both come away victorious. That's an infinitely replayable core gameplay loop. And if you can find those nuggets, again, infinitely replayable is really important there. If you can find that, then you can start to wrap your whole game around it. And you have to make sure that everything that you wrap around that enhances that core gameplay. The second part is to make sure that that core gameplay highlights the users. So again, Catan is a perfect example. Trading means it's interactive. The game is not entertaining. It's, I'm going to make this deal, haha, I screwed you over, or you screwed me over, or you didn't give me the thing you said you were going to give me, or whatever it is, right? That the players are the entertainment there. The game is just the tool set to do so. And you have to make sure that every aspect of your game is trying to focus the attention back onto that key moment. You can have distractions, you can have other little things, a little bit of housekeeping to worry about, but the whole goal of all of that is to get you right back into that core gameplay loop that highlights the actual users. It's a tough thing to do. It's a really, really kind of trial and error based discipline. But when you master it, which I have not done, not even close, but when you master it, you will be able to create something beautiful and successful. And I know it's very risky for me to say the word successful out loud, because who the hell knows what will be successful, but I would at least argue that you'll be setting yourself up for potential success if you can focus on that and make sure everything in the game refocuses the player on that core.
That's great. Awesome. A couple of other students who are with us, and I'm going to combine a couple of their questions because they're somewhat similar. So you were a computer science major while you were at RIT, and your time on campus predated the game design program, which many listening in might think, oh, of course, Elon was part of the game design program quite formally. But being a computer scientist at RIT in the 1990s meant you were probably on your way to a STEM career. So number one, how do you feel like computer science has supported you in what you are doing now? And how did you choose to make the leap on this kind of non-traditional career path out of that start?
Yeah, I was really attracted to computer science because it offered something that none of the other disciplines or areas of study offered, which was, I started out as a physics major. And the problem that I had with physics, because I'm not very good at it, is it felt to me like every question asked, the answer was in the back of the book, right? Like any test, any quiz, the answers are always back there. Now, let me be clear. I know some physics majors, some engineers now who are literally the smartest people I know. And the reason that I thought all the answers were in the back of the book was because I wasn't very good at physics and I never got past the book. But computer science was the opposite of that. Computer science was, here's a problem. Don't bother to look at the back of the book. Nothing's back there. Nobody's ever done this thing before. Whatever your implementation is going to be unique, or at least there will be unique elements to it. And that was the most interesting thing in the world for me. And when I started playing around with that, I was also never great at computer science for what it's worth, but the problem solving, the design aspect of the solutions were really fascinating. I understood the problems. I understood like how the pieces I needed to put in place in order to solve it. And then I usually needed help from friends for the actual code writing. But when I started to think about why that was so intriguing to me and so appealing, the transition to game design became very obvious because it's just work. It's feeling very comfortable in a problem set, in a problem space where no solutions exist. And the more innovatively you can think, the more solutions you'll be able to come up with. I really like problems like that. I really like the idea that the first idea I'm going to come up with is definitely going to be wrong, so I better have 100 more in the queue in order to get to where I need to get to.
That's great. So I am an imaging physicist, and I was very appreciative that there were answers.
Yeah.
No, that's great. That's great. All right, we probably only got a minute or two. So there's a couple other questions that are, again, of a similar theme. I think this is a great way to start. What else should we go play? What are your favorite things? What are you seeing that we should go play? Obviously,
Yeah.
stuff, but what else should we go play?
All right. I've got two recommendations to go play. The first one, I'm going to recommend it a little late to the party, but it's Among Us. I know everybody's playing Among Us, but let me at least tell you why you're playing Among Us, or if you're not, why you should be playing Among Us. Among Us is one of the most perfectly implemented versions of the players being entertaining that I have ever seen in my life. The entire game is just an elaborate tool set to shine a spotlight on you and to make your words, your behaviors, your actions, your suspicions, your accusations, to make all of those the entertainment content for the game. And it's so beautifully implemented. The game gets the hell out of the way to allow you to be the entertainment. So if you're playing Among Us, pay attention to those things next time you play and appreciate how brilliant that design is. And if you've not played Among Us, go download and play Among Us. It's on all the platforms, and it's impossible to find a room there's even space in because everyone seems to be playing this game right now. So that's number one. That's on the digital side. On the physical side of things, the game you should go out and play is a game called Happy Salmon. Happy Salmon is the best game I've seen in the last 10 years. It's a game that, again, I don't have to repeat all the things that I'm excited about. Yes, it makes everybody entertaining. You know, I've said that enough times now. But this game is 90 seconds long, start to finish. 90 seconds, except you're going to play it for 2 hours because you won't be able to put this game down. It's it's beautifully designed. It's the simplest thing ever. And it's just an endorphin engine. Like, every second of this game produces these chemicals in your head that are going to make you smile so hard. And yeah, I don't want to ruin it because, like I said, you can learn to play. You'll play it in 90 seconds. You'll learn to play in 20 seconds. So I don't need to spoil anything for you. Go buy this game.
The name alone, I'm on
Happy
it.
Salmon. Yeah.
All right, Elon, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all your expertise with our alumni, our students, our friends who are here with us today. For everyone on the call, so sorry we're out of time. As I mentioned earlier, though, we're going to send out information on how to access this recording so you can check it out later and review it. And I would be remiss to not close by saying, if you are not already connected to the RIT Alumni Association social media channels, can you please do that? We're going to post those in the chat box as we close here. Again, Elon, this has been fantastic. Really, really enjoyed hearing your story and hearing your creativity. Right after my own heart. I again, an imaging physicist, but spent my entire career in the motion picture industry specifically. It forces the left and the right brain people to be in the same room and do fantastic and awesome things. And I think you're a great example of that from our end.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. I think this has been a great talk and a great way to round out the week.
Thanks for having me. This has been a pleasure and such an honor. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Enjoy your week coming forward.